So the second C.
Second C, right, clarify. So this is the first thing we really should be doing in our business. This is your chance to clarify what the issues are for you, clarify what the risks are. You're going to clarify what the situation isn't just for you, but for your business, for your tenants, for your plans. It's just getting clear picture of exactly what the impact is. So we need to do that first before we can make any plans. So looking at clarifying, our first thing to take stock of that we think is most important for those of us with portfolios is to take stock of our current tenants or our customers, those who are actually, in essence, the providers of funds, of cash into our business. These are the most important people to take stock of first. You need to get a real grasp of who they are, what they do, therefore what the impact of the current situation is going to have on them, so that you can then make a plan around that. So from our perspective, obviously we have a portfolio with a lot of tenants, so we've done an employment assessment of every single one of our tenants. We've made a full list of our tenants. We've written down the employment of every single one. Any we didn't have an employment for, we've tried to find out. We've worked to get that as much information as we can, so that we can have an assessment of, you know, who's most at risk and how much of our portfolio is at risk of potentially being affected by this situation. Just so you can take stock and know, right, okay, I'm at, 20-30% risk of not having 20 to 30% of my revenue coming in over the next couple of months if things don't go well. So that's the initial taking stock of the tenants.
And I was thinking as well, yeah, so we've done that in a spreadsheet, and I think a lot of what is very helpful in these times is to kind of bring some structure. So getting all these swirling thoughts out of your head and onto paper. So in this scenario, we've used an Excel spreadsheet. I'm actually happy to share that. It's not exactly my most beautiful piece of work, but if you just want a bit of a framework, just comment or let me know, and we'll happily share that around. But we've through that looked at all the different properties, and because we have different entities that our properties are held in, what the different entities are as well. And then, as Dave has just said, the different tenants that are in renting all the properties from us, what their employment situation is, and then we've taken it one step further to then start to model out what's that, getting really specific, because still all of that is just one swirling vortex of information, but what you want to bring that to is some actual real numbers that you can measure.
Yeah, so we've done that by creating our own version of a risk assessment. This is all hypotheses at this time, and it's something we've created the framework, as Jackie's just said, on a spreadsheet, and as things evolve and as we find out more, we'll keep adjusting it to get it more and more accurate based on reality. But at this time, it's a hypothesis, our own version of a risk assessment. And just to keep things simple, we've done it on a high, a medium and a low methodology. So each job, each tenant within their job profile, we've said, is their job a high risk job, a medium risk or a low risk job? And depending on the level of risk we've given them, we've made an assessment of the likelihood of how much of their rent it could be affected by this situation. Those who are self-employed, for example, who may be in industries that come into a lot of contact with lots of other people, much higher risk, for example, than those who are doctors, who we consider anyone who works for the NHS to be a doctor, that type of thing, to be a very, very low risk, because we think during this time of crisis that type of job is going to retain security. So it's just giving every single one a very simple rating, and then based on that rating, what percentage of their rent do you think, hypotheses, is at risk? And it could be all of their rent. It could be that you think that actually they're probably going to get some money, they might get some sick pay, they might be able to carry on working at home based on that job. So it might just be that they're in a bit more hardship than normal, so they might come to you and ask for some reduction in their rent for the meantime. So getting that kind of clarity in terms of exact figures and numbers is essential for us to then be able to make action plans off the back of it.
So what that should bring you to then is a number that gives you the percentage of your rent roll that is at risk of high risk of not being paid, and then that's something that you can actually then use as we go through some of the next parts of this plan too, to then make decisions around it. So it just really removes a lot of the noise and clarifies it down into one key area that you can focus in on, which I found very calming.
Because in the end, at the moment, what we're talking about is we need money coming in to pay our bills. and the money comes from this source. So the question is, how much of that money is not going to come in over the next couple of months? That is the only question. What is the risk to our business? How much of the money? So if we can get that figure, if we can make a hypothesis on it and keep adjusting it and make it more accurate, we've got all the info we need to then make an action in order to mitigate that problem.
The next part of this is taking stock of your current cash reserves in terms of clarifying the current position that you're in. Hopefully you've been diligent and you have put aside some funds if you are an established business. So you've got some funds to actually weather the storm in some way. What does that actually look like? What sort of position is that in? And you may have it in different pots. It could be like you've got void and maintenance funds put aside, other risk funds. Where else have you got liquidity at this point, and how does that actually look?